Hi, it's Miranda Miller with Get Remote Ready. I'm joined by Dorene Wharton today from Travel Life Media, a guest I am super excited to have with me. Welcome, Dorene.
Thanks for having me, Miranda.
No problem. I met Dorene through the 7 and 7 community. So this is seven conferences on 7 continents over 7 years, a giant community of digital nomads, and we have been at 2 conferences together, one in Colombia and then the last one in New Zealand. So I asked Dorene to join us today and share some of her tips for marketing. Her company has primarily worked with tourism businesses, hospitality businesses, but she works with a lot of other industries as well. Doreen, can you tell us a bit about who you work with at Travel Life Media?
Sure. Maybe to start, I've been a marketer pretty much my entire career, so that's almost 25 years. And I've worked in everything from the corporate environment in the United States and Canada to small and medium-sized businesses to actually just being an entrepreneur on my own and working with small businesses directly. So I we tend to work, we being me and my husband, he's a videographer, and I do the marketing side of the business. We tend to work with hotels, tour companies. We also work with events and attractions, but we also work with a lot of lifestyle brands as well. And my background is a lot of hospitality and packaged goods. So we have a tendency to work with those businesses as well. And generally what we're doing is we're trying to solve marketing problems for our clients.
Speaking of which, what are you seeing right now? So COVID-19 is top of mind for everyone. I think pretty much every business worldwide is impacted in some way, especially those in the travel industry, I'm sure. What trends are you seeing amongst your clients?
Well, I guess the good news is the shock is over. We're in it now, and this is the reality, our new normal. The reality that we have no idea, when this is going to change. But the reality is we are going to change, and our consumers, our target consumers, are absolutely going to change as a result of this. So I'll start off by saying what people ask me right now all the time is, should I be marketing in a crisis? And the answer I always say is it really depends on what you mean by marketing. For example, if often marketing is seen as paid advertising, but advertising is one component of it. There's so many other things in marketing that it encompasses. So if you're not selling anything right now, it doesn't make sense to do paid ads. It really doesn't, because you can continue to engage with an audience. You can continue to talk to people in on your email list or on social media without spending a lot of money right now. And I'll give you a great example of a company that does this really well. There's a company called We Hate Tourism Tours. And I went on one of their tours in Portugal before the crisis happened. And they made a point of sending emails to check in with the people that did their tours before and said, hey, right now what we're doing is we're actually focusing, because we've got trucks and we're able to deliver food, and we're able to deliver a lot of things to people right now. So that's where our focus is while we're closed. And what kind of a company that would send something out like that, and the impression that I got from what they're doing was super positive. And I know that I'm going to be the next person that's going to recommend them for someone that's in Portugal and wants to do a tour with them when tourism is open. So that's one example of things you can do. And of course, there's content marketing. There's clients right now that are focusing on starting a blog, learning how to write SEO so they can better attract guests through means with Google. There's also market analysis, like really learning to understand Google Analytics and Google Search Console and understanding your sales results, because they are going to be different when we come out of this. But if you actually understand what the trends were, understand what your referral traffic was, what was working before that got you the clients that you did, those are all the things that you can work out now. Now, I don't want to discount that there are a lot of people right now that have a lot of challenges at home, homeschooling, and what do you do to make your family feel comfortable? But these are things that you can think of now while business is closed, or while you're figuring out what your next move is.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's a whole bunch of examples.
Yeah. And what are some other ways that companies can maybe innovate right now? if they need to pivot really quickly or find a whole new revenue stream?
Well, I'll take an example from the hospitality and also the tourism industry is there's a lot of innovation going on with virtual tours. So these would be a less expensive tour that you could take online with, say, for example, you always wanted to go to Rome and you're dying to go there. You know you can't go there right now, but you could take a lower price tour, a tour that is less expensive than actually doing the real thing, obviously, and you know, dream and enjoy in the comforts of your own home. Now, a lot of these are now starting to pop up, which is absolutely fantastic. And there's also collaborations. So I know there's one company, I believe they're called the Taste of Milwaukee Food Tours. And they've collaborated with restaurants and coffee shops in their area, and they've created what they call like a quarantine care kit. And so they've worked together. They've put your most favorite cupcakes and coffees that you always want, and actually it's helping pay for staff who normally would have actually lost their jobs, and it's actually keeping the lights on and helping pay for some of the bills that these companies have. So, and it's helping the local economy. So there's a lot of really interesting things like that that are popping up. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a tour company. I mean, you can collaborate with local businesses in your neighborhood. There's a lot of things that you can do and do it online. And then it improves your skills when you can learn how to do that, those kind of
Right.
things as well.
Right. And I think it's, even if you're operating only on a limited basis, it's so important to keep your name out there right now. So you mentioned social media, email marketing. What are some other good channels if people aren't doing paid ads right now?
Well, you know, Instagram absolutely is a great media. If we want to talk specifically about social media and Instagram stories, I have seen some fantastic stories of what companies are doing while they're closed. They're creating ebooks. They're doing, you know, obviously some are doing live webinars, some are doing cooking classes at home, like a food tour, for example. I mean, there's a lot of those things that you can keep top of mind and engage with the people that you want to continue to talk to while being closed.
Right. And you don't have to be selling all the time.
No, absolutely. And you're right. And sometimes it's giving you an opportunity to not feel like you have to sell, but you're being human.
Right.
You're actually being authentic. You're being who you are. You're talking about what's going on, how people feel, what you're thinking of, what's going on in your neighborhood. What did you notice? Like there's all those things are very relevant now. And it actually really builds your authenticity and who you are as a brand.
Right. This is a good time to build those relationships. People are not only craving content because they're bored, but they're craving connection too.
Absolutely.
What are some tips you have for people who might be thinking of reopening soon? What can they do to get prepared?
Yeah, a big one right now is really looking at your target consumer, because we are changing. There is no doubt about it. We are, as people right here on this video call, but also the consumer that you're attracting right now. Now, I'll give you an example of that. Number one is people are afraid. You know, there's no doubt about it. People are afraid of getting sick. They are afraid of their families getting sick or infecting other people. And that is going to play a much higher role. For example, hygiene and the cleanliness of something, as opposed to the latest trend on fashion, for example. It is highly top of mind on people's views, and it's going to change trends like we're already seeing in research. For example, travelers are talking about, hey, my next trip is going to be a short haul trip, and I want to do it in my own car. So here's the tip here. Domestic business is become very important as opposed to international business, for the obvious reason that as regulations continue and flights are grounded, that's not going to give opportunity to have the same people that were necessarily buying from you. Now, of course, if you're selling something and you can ship it, that's a different story. But for a hospitality business, a tour business, a retail business, you will likely not have the same consumers that are coming in there. And then there's also other types of consumers that you really need to consider. So not just the ones that are local in there, but what about families? What about people that actually miss their birthday and they want to celebrate it or enjoy it when we come out of this? Those are all things that are worthy to think about right now, because we absolutely are going to change. I can pretty much guarantee, and it's validated by research, that consumers are really craving to be outside. They're craving the outdoors and natural, as opposed to being, as opposed to things that are urban and artificial. So that's another example of really thinking about who you're going to target when this is all over, and and how are you going to meet their needs and what their needs are. And to start with that, I mean, you start interviewing people. You know, call up your friends that you know would potentially be someone that would buy your product, and actually interview them. Think about, like, okay, what are they looking for now? What's changed? Where do I need to focus on?
That's a great tip. You know, small businesses may not have personas that they've written down and documented on paper, but this would be a good time to do that, because your customer may not be who you thought they were 6 months ago. And if you're trying to reach a whole new audience, you need to know where they're spending their time online and how you'll be able to connect with them most effectively.
And I'm a real believer that purpose should be a major driver of who you are as a person, but also your business. And there's no better time to actually think about your business in terms of, okay, how do I want to show up as a person in my business? And how do I want my business to show up with consumers? Because now more than ever, we're craving connection, and we're craving connection with people that are authentic, and people believe in what we believe. So one example of that, and one tip is your About Us page on your website is often for most businesses, is a very high traffic site or piece of your website, because people actually want to know the people behind the business. And here's your opportunity to think about, okay, how do I want to run my business, and what are the things that are really important to me that I want to let others know? And you'll be very surprised that a shift is going to come. It's already there, but I think it's going to just be much more pronounced, that people are going to be much more focused on the people behind the business. They want to support local. They want to support people that are actually responsive to change as well. You know, the last thing that anybody wants is a company that stays in business when, you know, in the middle of a crisis, and they're putting their customers in harm's way. Right. So now more than ever, focusing on authenticity and who you are and your purpose is also something to look at.
That's great advice. And some of these exercises, I feel like people could walk through on their own, but if they needed help, if they were stuck, or they're not particularly inspired, or they don't know where to find the data that's going to help them figure out how they can change, is that something that you help people with?
Yes, absolutely. And we also got a ton of free resources on our website. So where our blog is, I think we've changed the name to resources, so we can better equip people in different categories to help them with their needs are. So if you want to understand how to build a guest persona, for example, and how to actually figure out who my next target audience is, we've got some tools on our resources page to do that.
Oh, good. And that's on travellifemedia.com?
Travellifemedia.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Dorene. I'm so excited that we had this time to catch up, and that you could share these awesome tips and resources for people.
You're very welcome.
And I'm going to stop recording.